Hey, it's story time. Hey, you can't really see the money tree with the mic there. I just set up this mic. I actually had it for a while, but I only set it up today. And I actually got this to record my dad to see what he would say, right? Telling his stories in his own unique way. But he happened to pass away. Not at the time when I got the mic, but sometime after. Now I'm going to tell you a story I'm going to tell you a story from my life because I decided today that I would start to share the story or the stories, right? And we'll start with this one because this is one that I prepared. And DI, digital intelligence, commonly called AI, helped me create this, right? After a lot of deep work, a lot of developing the origin story. My origin canon. So this is my 9-beat signature story from November 17th, 2025. So just before my dad died, I made this story. And actually, I was creating if we want to talk, like do meta storytelling, like before we tell the story, we're telling more other stories. So the joys of creating, I was doing that all through 2025. And so obviously reinventing myself, rebuilding, like a phoenix out of the ashes. I was rebuilding using my creativity purely. And so I was creating in private, right, and only sharing a little bit of it publicly. And I finally got this newsletter ready. There was a lot of development, but the first issue I finally got ready to publish. Actually, I wanted to show it to my dad, right? And he reviewed it, and together we improved it. So there's some of his influence in it. So he actually got to read it. He got to experience the art in that. There was some custom software to make it into like a slideshow so he could see it, because his hearing was pretty bad and his sight was not good either. So it had to be blown up big. Like he could really barely read subtitles on the screen when we were watching movies. So I knew that the text had to be really big. Anyway, so he did review it and he did influence it, but he never got to see me publish it. And maybe that was his karma. I don't know, right? But he did get to experience the first issue. So that's great. But without the dedication to him, which is at the beginning. And that's because he died, right? I showed him the newsletter. He didn't live any more than that. He was like, couldn't breathe and stuff. I brought him to the hospital. He was telling me the story along the way. Now, let's not get more meta and put another story within the story that I put in front of the story I'm going to tell you. Let's not go to 3 levels, and let's not break the fourth wall, right? So we'll just simply keep it simple and leave that for another time. But he did tell me a story, and I've recorded it in audio. So I'm just not going to tell it to you. I'm just going to tell you about it for a few seconds. So he told a story in which he revealed that he actually shot someone, and that's pretty badass. And I didn't know that he had shot anyone, and he didn't get in any trouble for it. This was in Egypt. It's a good story. And you can hear it from the horse's mouth. No, I'm just a mouthpiece. You can't hear it from him because we never recorded it. Like, he told it to me. I didn't know he was going to tell a story. I don't even know if I had my phone with me, like, to record it when we were going to the hospital. So he told me this. He told me the story, and it's probably because he felt that his life was threatened. And that he did feel like that because he couldn't breathe well. I couldn't get enough oxygen. So he felt that way. It reminded him of another time that he felt that way, and it was because of the tensions in the area, right? And they're at war and stuff. He was there serving for the British Army for the couple of years after he turned 18, right? So he was there in Egypt. So it's a good story. And so what I did afterwards, so a couple of days later, after he had told me it, and once he was now dead, I was like, fuck, right? Like, that was a good story, but like no one else is going to hear it, right? So I recorded it. I recorded what I remembered. It couldn't be exactly how he said and all that. I'm not going to repeat it. I already explained this before, but I've recorded that in audio and posted it before. And I'm sure we could search it and find it and link it and whatever. Okay, so signature story, right? So here's my 9-beat signature story from November 17th, right? Oh yeah, I was mentioning the joys of creating. You can read it. The first issue, I did publish it. So right after he died, then there was, a bit later, right? Because when we had his celebration of life on December 6th, of course, 2025, I read part of a story there. And I had DI help me to choose the parts of it because we couldn't read the whole thing out, so it had to be like little excerpts, but those excerpts had to kind of tell the story too. So that's like something that's a little challenging to solve in a couple minutes, right? So the ADI helped me do that. And I told that, but I still need to tell the whole story, like record it. I think it takes a half hour. Okay. But it's also like you definitely want to feel into it and tell it properly. So I was reading it privately first, which I did. Okay. So anyway, the joys of creating. That newsletter is real, and I put a dedication to him at the beginning of it. So that was something that I made, right, that I prepared around the time of that celebration of life, okay? Because that's what I was doing, of course, was celebrating him. Because he stays true to himself, and that's what I admired about him, right? It's like, to thine own self be true. Like living your life your own way, and not doing it the way other people expect or what they would want, but just what you would want, right? Okay, so you can check that out if you want. It's inspirational, and it shows how I refreshed myself by going to the river. Then I received this inspiration, and I made the art right away based on that exciting idea. So it is a celebration of creativity and how I listen to the dragons and the divine feminine. Okay, so, and that's what creativity is, right? Because if you get receptive, then you will receive those ideas. And then if you act on it, you can do that with masculine energy. So there's a balancing of both energies when we create things. It's also, I wasn't planning on talking about this. It's also, and here I'm looking at the screen, but I'm meant to be looking at the camera, or is it like, a foot behind the camera, whatever, right? Okay, this is just one of the first ones. Okay, so in that, I think I was just saying that like I made that art and that was exciting, right? And you can do that too, and that's what I encourage you to do, right? So the joys of creating, enjoy it. I think I forgot what I was going to say, so I just went to like the main point of that newsletter. Okay, so the signature story. Now I'll tell it to you. You want to put it in another video because we're already 7 minutes in. We might as well just do it here. This is fine. For today, I'm just doing one. I'll do other ones in the future. Here we are. Okay, so the opening truth. Joy is the most intelligent force in the universe. I've always believed that joy isn't frivolous, it's directional, right? It points us in the direction we want to go. And it points us to who that we're meant to become, which is actually who we've always been. Okay, so the early spark, the man who made art just for the art itself. That's me, right? My dad taught me something rare. Create for the joy of creating. Okay, yeah, so this is when I was making this cheetah. Oh yeah, right. So I made a software company and I created this logo for it, which was a cheetah. And that was in 2020. And then I guess in 2021, I was playing around with that art and improving it and adding color to it. Yeah, and then that became my first NFTs, right? The OG Bitcoin cheetahs. So I was making this cheetah better and making it look better and stuff. And I was also thinking about what I might get, but my dad told me to focus just on the art itself, right? Like how that cheetah wants to be, right? Like just the beauty of it or whatever, for whatever purpose you're making the art, just do it purely. And so from that, I learned, the practice of pure creation. So that's what we're talking about here. My dad taught me something rare. Create for the joy of creating. Not for approval, not for outcomes, not for reward, but just to feel alive. Oh yeah, that early spark, pure, playful. Yeah, this actually needs to be edited because at first it said the early spark, the boy who made art just for the art itself. I just edited it and put in man, but that's because the DI, right, digital intelligence, didn't have some things straight. So it was thinking of me when I was a child. It wasn't talking about the episode that I just mentioned. So it says the early spark. Well, it wasn't an early spark. That was in 2021. Early sparks would be back like my dad or both my parents, right, telling me stories when I was little, right? And like me creating my own stories and them helping me create those and make it into something real, like back and forth, which are two dinosaurs. But we can get into that another time. But we'll just say it the way it is there, okay? So whatever. That early spark, pure, playful, unconcerned with perfection, quietly shaped everything. Yeah, it's true. I gave myself permission to be myself, right? To show up as myself rather than having masks and performance. So I can just be myself. And that is a very relaxing thing. And I encourage it for other people too. And so giving yourself permission to be yourself and not needing to be perfect is very freeing. It's very important for our creative self-expression. It's important for our free-flowing creativity, which we do, which I've done in Unleash the Artist Within, Discover the Magical Worlds Within, and then in 2025, The Joys of Creating. And now, Awaken to Paradise. Start off a podcast, do a thing where we interview people. We have these lively conversations. Awaken the Fire Within was like people that already, and obviously the ones I have on the show, they already did awaken the fire within their self, right? So then they can now help awaken that fire in others, right? Like their passion, the thing that they're doing that lights them up. Okay, Awaken to Paradise is even higher. It's like we've shifted into a heaven on earth frequency, right? So like you can also, look, 11:11 on the timer right there. You can also awaken to paradise too. And we do that with the self-discovery portal, which is of course coming very soon. Okay, so here's beat 3, the drift, losing myself in systems that weren't mine. As a grown-up, I spent years chasing strategies, systems, and proven paths that never fit. I invested tens of thousands of dollars, that's an understatement, trying to succeed the way others said that I could, or it says should there. I think it's could, but each system pulled me further from myself. More pressure, more perfectionism, more hustling, less joy. I didn't fail them, right? I didn't fail those systems. They failed me because, I didn't fail those systems. They failed me because they weren't aligned with my essence. See, true success comes from being who you are. It's super simple. The pressure point, the pain. Maybe I'm not supposed to say what these beats are. Like that title, it may not be part of the story. It's just a heading for the section. Eventually, forcing myself into someone else's mold became unbearable. I wanted to create, to help, to teach, to be a catalyst, to be a guide, but not through burnout, sacrifice, or pretending. I hit a point where staying the same cost more than changing. I'd probably say this differently. As I said, this is not perfectionism. I'm just sharing something that I prepared before, and the DI wrote this. Like I did read through this, but I haven't really edited it, right? Okay, in 2023, so obviously we're going back a couple of years beyond what we were just talking about, I said yes to the Abundance Code Journey, a program that, I don't know if it's a program, I'd say it's an experience, that I couldn't rationally afford. That's not true either. See what I mean? This thing needs to be edited. It's so far from perfect, it's not funny. But the thing is, nothing can ever be perfect because we're the beginning of infinity. Things can always infinitely get better, and we're on a path of continuous evolution through being ourselves and living our truth. And that's a very abundant place to begin. Okay, so let's just ignore that point. The point is I said yes to it because I was excited about it, right? And I trusted that. See, it's like I didn't choose something because of what it will help me get. It was like, it feels like I'm drawn to this. I'm saying yes because it feels right, okay? And it says here, it's the first time I chose joy over safety and it changed everything. That's not true. It's not the first time. It's just one of the times. See what I mean? Like the DI didn't know what, it didn't have more of the full context, right? But it's a start. It's something that we can improve upon, okay? So yeah, I did choose joy over safety. It's true. It's like when you say you've learned something, you've only really learned it if it's in your behavior, right? Bashar said that. So it's like, yeah, I did it. This is a physical, it's an action, it's a decision, and I did it, and I went ahead with it, and it did help change my life. Well, that's good, right? That's like in my behavior. If you just say like that you have this concept of choosing joy, if you don't actually live it every day, then it doesn't do you much good, right? I reconnected with creativity, shared my art, practiced guiding others, and I felt my aliveness return. That wasn't all about what that journey was about, but I did those things while in it. It was to align yourself to abundance, right? So if you think about fun and joyful things for you to do, if you think about that every day and journal on it, then those things can become like a roadmap of your future. So that's a really cool insight from that. If you want to learn more about that or other experiences that Jay Matthews does, check out quantumsoulcode.com. All right, so that's it. Okay, so yeah, and there it says it was the first yes to myself. It's not true. That was in 2023. Like, that's after a lot of years of life already. It's not the first time I said yes to myself. That makes no sense, right? It's just another time that I said yes to myself. Okay, work now. Okay, so that's probably talking about that year, 2023. Yeah, so I did that. I was in her portal. It was called the portal, right? In quantumsoulcode.com. And I did that abundance code journey. So that was near the beginning of the year. So I was in her portal like the whole year. So that's where it's like the initiation, the year of awakening, creation, and remembering. Okay, well, I was already, okay. I started creating art using using Midjourney, making AI art, in September 2022. So yeah, it's true that there wasn't a whole lot of that before, but I was making art in other ways before that, like for years, right? Plus software and games and things ever since I was like 8. So the art was lots of different things along the way, and the AI helped speed it up and make it better, quicker, which was awesome. And now we can do stuff with video too. You can take any of your art or other art and make it come alive, right? And like move and 3-dimensional. That's pretty sweet. Yeah, and there's a lot more I could share about that, but I won't. Okay, so anyway, working with this psychic channel, Jay Matthews, right? Creating daily, experimenting with AI art, and sharing my work. I didn't just learn skills, I learned myself. Obviously, I remembered who I was, right? Only part of it, but I was getting back to myself. That's because if you go further back, there's a 1717, whatever that means to somebody, if it does. But anyway, so I just like repeating numbers sometimes when I see them. Like 142, it's not repeating, but it's like, it has some significance to me. I won't go into why, but if you know about, I think they're called wonderful numbers, not beautiful numbers. Maybe there are beautiful numbers, who knows? And if not, we need to invent them, right? Or heavenly numbers. There's angel numbers. Anyway, these things called, I think, wondrous numbers. I said wonderful, but maybe that's another thing. So these wondrous numbers, whatever, right? You can look that up. So 142 is like that little loop at the end of it. Okay, and I saw that a lot. Certain times I see it and it was like, oh, cool. Anyway, whatever. It doesn't matter at this point, right? It's not really what we're talking about. But it might be a spark. You can call it an opening for future sparks. It's a thing that if it's exciting, you could look at that, you could return to it whenever you want to, maybe even multiple times in the future. And it's like, you can always find new things, right? Because creativity is infinite. All right. So, okay, right. So I was saying, I was like remembering who I was, right? Well, that's what this is about. That's what this self-discovery portal is all about. Remembering who you are. And then you can thrive as yourself, because you have to remember who you are and like come into alignment in order to do that. And of course there's more to it than that, but that's like the gist of it. So yeah, I was very creative when I was small, and then I got into school and I like tried to fit in a bit and stuff and dumb myself down in there a bit. And that wasn't the best decision, but there were some unique things I did, like the skateboarding, because skateboarding is a kind of an individual sport, like rock climbing and surfing and snowboarding, other things I like to do, or reading, which is individual as well. Because like watching a movie is not, it's like it's being transmitted to you, but also at a certain time, a certain pace, right? When you're reading, it's different, and you use your imagination more. And you go at your own pace, and you can stop it or start it, continue it at any time. There's a big difference between them. Of course, you could pause movies too, so that there is that. But it's like the movie is kind of at a certain pace, but reading is at your own pace. So it's more respectful of the individual, and then it uses your imagination more. You know how they say like poor people have big TVs, rich people have big libraries, right? So, and my dad did have a big library, right? And so all those books, we won't talk about them right now though, okay? But he had great taste in books, right? And he shared that with us, and it's a great blessing. And he was such a good storyteller. Anyway, he's passed that to me. It might be a bit rambly. It doesn't matter, right? That's part of the point. Remember, you can see a little fly there. That's that's part of the point, is that you don't need perfectionism. Like, who needs that? So what happened, right? This is talking about in 2023. Oh, wait. Okay. So I said I got away from myself, then after high school, and then I got into work, and it was like, why am I trading my time for money? This is like a waste of time, right? So it was out of alignment. And then over time, it was like kind of got worse. And I eventually realized like I was quite unfulfilled. So it was like in 2009. And then I went and did something for fun, just something I wanted to do, which was rock climbing. And that's where my whole rock climbing thing started. September 27th, 2009, went and climbed up this cascade. And I got a picture of it. I got stories. I have stories about it. And so at one point, and I was filming too. I had a little camera that could do like 9 frames a second when you're filming with it. And I climbed up. And at one point I got kind of scared, and because I got stuck a bit, right? I was like, how do I get this next move? And then, so my legs started shaking a bit, and then I knew that like I would have to stop being scared, because I don't want to fall off and like get hurt or whatever. So I did that. So when I conquered that fear, it helped trigger a kind of awakening. And also when I was climbing too, it was like, there was no thoughts in my head. I was totally free, and I was in a flow state because of what I was doing. I was totally focused on it. So it freed me. It was like freeing my mind. It was a really powerful experience. So that helped me to come back to myself. Absolutely. The rock climbing. And so I started that, and I was bouldering, and I made these videos of it and like progression. I think I'll get back and do more of that. It was fun. So then in 2010, I had like the first 5 months of the year or something. Well, it may have started near the end of the previous year, right? I had this time off from work. That was pretty sweet. It was the first time I had that. And so then I could explore, and I was practicing handstands and things. And I read this book, The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. And it's interesting too, that one time it was early on in that, like it was still in like 2009. I got a couple books out of the library, one on investing and one on the internet or social media. I think, because I know at one time I got like the Google story and also the Accidental Billionaires, like that's the Facebook one, the other one's Google, right? So at that time, it was probably one book was the Google story and one was like something about investing. But then I made a mistake. Now, if I put them together, that was the time of Bitcoin. That was when you could get Bitcoin so cheap, right? So it was the beginning of Bitcoin. And it, there was multiple experiments in the past. So that one built on earlier things, right? But that's the one that first, that got critical mass. And escape velocity. And in 2016, Tika Tawari actually then was like, okay, it had boomed, like there was a bull run and it pulled back. And then it was like still 5 billion, it was still a 5 billion market cap. And then he was like, and he really looked into it and went to a conference and stuff, and he saw the vision, and then he realized his mission was to like usher people into this new asset class, right? So he did that and started the first crypto currency investing newsletter in 2016 when Bitcoin was $400, right? And it's gone as high as over 100,000. That was that was like in late 2025. Okay, so it's already gone over 100,000. Now, when we go back to 2010, it was like $1. Like during early 2010, it'd be like pennies, 10 cents or whatever. Late October, I don't know, even in October, it might have been pretty cheap in 2010. But I know that in early 2011, it was only $1. So it's funny. So it's like I didn't put the two things together with the internet and the investing, but I was seeing something there, right? It's too bad. Now my friend told me about it and said to buy like just $100 worth. So let's say that that was at the beginning of like 2011, or it was just before that, but it's $1. Yeah, he was right? 100 Bitcoin. Okay, well that would have been like 10 million US dollars, right? US and Canadian dollars were both $1, like they were the same back then in 2011. So 100 Bitcoin would be then $10 million when it was 100,000. It's pretty good. It's a phenomenal return. Now, anyway, we're not going to get into Bitcoin and all that. It's a great long-term investment. You want to buy it when it's oversold, right? 4-year cycles, you got to consider global liquidity cycles too, but it's something that can really hold value. That's the whole point. It's unhackable, uncensored, like you can't censor it, and you can't control it. Okay, it's decentralized, which is the opposite of cash, where you can just print more. Here you can't make more of it. That's what makes it valuable, just like real estate. But it's not unique real estate. That's like NFTs. It's not unique. It's fungible. Each one is equal. Every Bitcoin is the same as any other Bitcoin. Any hundredth of a Bitcoin is the same as any other hundredth of a Bitcoin, right? Okay, so anyway, I got away from myself, right? And then I had this path of coming back, right? So in 2010, then I quit my surveying job in about May or June, okay? And what I knew was that I wanted to inspire people. I didn't know it in extreme detail. I just had that general idea, right? Over the years, I'm not going to explain that whole path. That's for other videos, right? Other stories. But over time, I mean, we can kind of sum it up in a way where I was helping small businesses use social media, right, to grow their business. And then I made a book about that, or a course, right, and sold it online. So that was scaling it up, right? Now, when I made that, I was in a creative haven. I experienced that. So that was starting at my brother's house with his mom, and then for a while, and then at my dad's house. He had a yurt. He kind of set it up like a homestead in the woods. So then I lived with him like from then on, after that, although not the entire time. I did live with him there for a couple of years, or almost a couple of years, but then I got this job and I went somewhere else, and I was in Vancouver for a while, and then I went to Mexico for the winter. I got rid of the apartment, and I just went to Mexico for the winter, and so when I came back, then that was mid-2017, and then went and lived with him again. Okay, so there was a gap, but I went back and continued living in the woods there. So then I've been a hermit for quite a while. But I learned a lot being in nature, and that is my nature, to be with nature as well, right? But I also like luxury too. Okay, so what did I do? Okay, now I'm going to tell you it in another way, right? So creative haven, that's very important. People need that, like the safe space to explore their creativity and who they are, to rediscover who they are and what their gifts are. And that's why we're creating the self-discovery portal. Okay, so yeah, social media, right? One of the pages in that course or book or like ebook was on creativity, like being more creative in order to create your content, right? To bring something fresh to it. Like, so like a walk in the mountains, a walk in nature, whatever, right? So I'm going to check that page out and see what I talked about back then. Anyway, that has expanded a lot since. So I'm just planting these seeds, giving you these like breadcrumbs or points, right? These like dots that we connect when we look back, right? So yeah, in 2017, I definitely wanted to make a book about creativity. And now I've done it, right? Now it's 2026. I've created so much content, like I'm like drowning in my own IP, right? It's like there's tons of it. It's almost too much, right? But that's okay, because I maybe set out to prove that creativity is infinite. Well, now we know it definitely is. And it's not just me. Anyone can do it, right? So we have proven that. That's good. We know that for sure. Right. So then there's also tribe building. So starting around 2014, 2015, I was helping people build their tribes, right? And then it got into this like soul to soul connection, right? Actually, no, before that, right? High vibrational connecting. So connecting with others with an awareness of your energy, right? Your frequency. Okay, those are good times. So in the step by step of how we connect with others on the soul to soul level, the beginning of that, you got to connect with yourself, right? And you got to connect with the God within. And what does enthusiasm mean, right? We can probably turn that. Yeah, it works. Okay, so we can do that. We can connect with the God within. So there was like 10 steps, but then the first one was just like aligning with the divine, right? Or connecting with the infinite creative spirit within you. Well, then that expanded into the whole work, which is pretty cool. So I'm just kind of connecting those dots for you. Back then, I didn't think that it was the whole work, right? It was like, that's the first step. And then we were able to connect with others because, you know, like the all-seeing eye, right? Like we are each a spirit, an infinite spirit, and we're a spark of the God consciousness. So then, so is everyone else, right? So it doesn't make sense to be above or below other people, right? Because we're all like, we all have the same consciousness. This light is within us. That's what we all have, right? So it's a common ground. And I do have a gift that I can see the light in other people, of course, right? I can see their potential. Namaste means like the light in me honors the light in you. So I was saying like to do that, like to communicate or connect with others with that namaste attitude, right? Soul to soul connecting. So in the Soul to Soul Connection show, I talked with quite a few people, at least like 50. There was about 50 interviews. That was in 2017, 2018. So for my first podcast. And those are still on YouTube. It was a lot of fun. And I got the idea to do a Soul to Soul Connections World Tour. That's even more awesome. Now we'll do that, but it'll be called something else, right? It's like Awaken to Paradise Live or like something like that, because Awaken to Paradise is the new thing. The second podcast was Awaken the Fire Within. That's in 2023. So that comes after what we were just doing here with the story, right? With that year of transformation, like working with the psychic that was helping me, right? Okay. Oh yeah. So in July, I won this prize, right? I won this thing in this rebranding self challenge. Okay. And I got this pretty sweet channeled message from her that was personally for me and my energy. And every time I listen to it, I get excited again, right? There's so many great ideas in that. I showed people how to connect with their future self through a meditation and then make the art of that, right? Like I showed a painting. It's like a painting of me with a painting behind me in the painting, which is my own painting that I've made. So it makes me look like I'm a successful artist that already achieved that when I was like kind of like a struggling AI artist. You see what I mean? So I created that vision, I made that art, and that kind of won me the thing. It wasn't a real competition. It's like she'll just give the prize to whoever she's told to give it to. You see, so then I got it, and it was really awesome. And so there's amazing ideas in that message, and we can return to it. So it can be labeled an opening for future sparks. That's a hashtag, right? Okay, so now through that year, right? Right, so sometime after the Abundance Code journey, right? Obviously I won that thing. Okay, so I did this future self journey, right? Connect with your future self AI art journey. We need obviously a shorter name for it, right? And after that I did Unleash the Artist Within, which was just pure creation. Remember, we learned about pure creation. We're just making art for fun. Okay, that evolved into the next thing later. Okay, let's see what else happens next in the story. Right. So it said I was doing this stuff this year, right? 2023. And I was remembering myself. Okay, so notice how I had to show you how I'd gotten away from myself. That was doing things I didn't really enjoy, doing it just for the money, right? Like, just like hustle to survive or whatever. Well, I didn't really resonate with that, right? So in 2029, that didn't happen yet, or 2229, yeah, it's in the future. I'm just talking about in 2009. Yeah, then I went my own way. And later I found out that because my dad did that, that was what inspired me about him, right? Which is pretty cool. And that's something that we can do. That's how a quick way to get insights about yourself. I'll just give you that tip on the fly here, is that you can think about who inspires you, like maybe 5 people, then, and just write down those names, you know, like Robin Sharma and like certain people. So you just write down the people that inspire you, and then look at why each one of them inspires you, right? Answer the question, why does that person or whatever, this luminary, why do they inspire you? And then the thing is that if you see that quality in them, it must be in you. This is because of emptiness. Things, including people, places, and ideas and everything, they don't have anything, they don't have inherent qualities. I don't know if that's true. They do have some qualities, but they don't have like some qualities that we judge them to have. I'm correcting it because from something that someone else said before, it was too simplistic, it was too generalized. Okay, so I'm adding that, yeah, okay, maybe they do have some inherent qualities, but they don't have all the qualities that you might assume that it has in it. Like you're putting those in there because of the way that you look at it and the filters that you see through, right? Your perspective. So if you see that in them, whatever it is that inspires you about them most, if you see that in them, then it's in you. So that's good. It reflects back because everyone, we're all mirrors for each other, or we're walking each other home. That's what we do here. Restore orientation, right? It's like I'm helping people, guiding them back to themselves, and then forward into their amazing life, right? Based on who they really are, using their gifts. Okay, so that's how it works, right? It's a whole like continuous evolution thing. So if you find out who inspires you and why they inspire you, then you'll notice that this is what the qualities are in yourself that you want to bring out more. See, so it's like a mirror. All right, so 2023, right? We talked about that year. It just says like the year of awakening, creation, and remembering. Okay, and I was sharing that art and stuff, and that was good. Because we don't want to just create things and not show them to people. That's like creative suicide. So you create it, share it with people, and that's good because your art is then like uplifting other people and changing lives. Like you're making something and putting it out there that's transmitting your frequency out into the world. So instead of just accepting an imprint from the rest of creation, you actually emit your own frequency. This is why we have to become individuals, right? Become who we really are. But that's not really a change or a becoming. It's really an unlearning of everything that you think you are, things you've been told, other people's expectations, and programming. So we release that. We're really just remembering who we are. Okay, that's what I did. I discovered the power of sparks, joy-led. So sparks are ideas that feel alive. Joy-led creation, and the freedom that emerges when you stop forcing life and start following aliveness. But the most transformative moment came later. All right, okay, so I was interviewing my dad about his life. I wasn't just gathering stories. I was searching for the thread that connected us. I was looking for the overlap in our philosophies and what like inspired me about him. Because I knew, like I loved my dad and I knew, well I still do, right? But like I knew that he inspires me, right? But I didn't know exactly why, right? It's like, and people's presence have an impact. Like mine, like yours, it has an impact, right? You can feel someone's presence. So we don't need to explain it, right? It's just, I was trying to understand more, okay? And I found it. I found what that was. He lived in his own way, true to himself, unbent by expectations. And you'll see that in the elm tree, which is what I'm meant to read, right, for him. So he went back. Why did he edit the story, right? Why did he go back and edit it when he did? Well, because he looked at his life in a different way. There was more meaning to it. He was compelled to change the way he told that story, right? And there's a multi-generational thing in there, and transcending struggle and having this or that, like the love and the money. Like you can't have both perfectly, and like sacrificing and working hard for your money. So it was like this working class attitude. Okay, and it was also his dad was being mean to his mom too. That was like why he couldn't have everything, because he had all this, he was putting all this pressure on himself. I don't mean my dad, I mean his father, right? So you'll just see that in the elm tree, right? And that's a very emotional part. It was hard for me to say it, like at his celebration of life, when I read out these excerpts from the story. It was hard for me to even say that part because it's like he's so emotional about it. I don't just mean me, I mean my dad, right? So when he was little, like he's 5 or 8 or something when that happened, and that was why he said that breakfast was the worst time of the day, because of how his dad was treating his mom, right? And this was like trauma for him, and I don't know if it was even healed. Like when he died, it was 91. Like I don't know if I think it was still there, but he was helping to heal himself when he made the story and sharing it. And it was great that he shared that at the library as well. Like he read his stories at the library a couple of times, and I'm glad that he did. Yeah, and he would do more, right? And there would have been more travels, like going to Mexico. Okay, but now we can only do that in spirit. But his spirit can be everywhere, so he can still experience all the, and better, right? All the tropical wonder and the pura vida that he encountered when he went to Costa Rica for the first time, which he's then shared with us, and then it's becoming part of this legacy, which is awesome. Yeah, okay, so he did that. He lived his own way, true to himself, unbent by others' expectations of him. See, he didn't go into his father's stationery business. Instead, he became a farmer as he wanted to. Now, he also did other things after that. There's the Costa Rica thing. Yeah, traveling. Later, so when I was 4, he started a safari tour, whitewater kayaking. It's really awesome. And surfing in the ocean in Mexico for 6 months. So that was really great. But it's not the only thing he did, right? So yeah, he went to Costa Rica, then he like became a poet. Well, there's the magic mushrooms. You can't like gloss over them. It's an important part of the story because of the awakening, seeing it, everything's connected. There's no way to skip that. Yeah. There's a funny story he tells about a rooster that went around them. They were all flying high on the magic mushrooms, and the purple light is, going from eye to eye and all that. Everything's connected. And you're seeing the truths of the universe, and everything is fucking hilarious. And this rooster couldn't handle the energy, like from the eye to eye. It didn't want the eye contact with them, and it was scared. So it took a big detour, like a circle around them. But he tells quite a few stories, so that's just one. Another one, he had a dislocation of point of view, like perspective, and he ended up underneath a fly and microscopic. And so he's looking up at it, and it's like a cathedral. But that's for another time. So he became a poet, right? And a storyteller. And even from when he was little, though, he wanted to act in plays because it's fun and direct them. Well, he did that in Princeton, BC, Canada. And that was great to see him do that too. I didn't see all of them, but I saw some of them, and that's fun. And he was like a local celebrity with that because like people just love it, and so they would celebrate him. So that was awesome to see. And so telling the stories is another thing. He loves that. So he didn't want to do it online like this, right? Because he wants to see the feedback of the audience because he's connecting with them. And when he says something and it like shocks them and their response, right? There's an energy exchange there. He's transmitting something, and the aliveness and the joy de vivre and the seas, the carpe diem and everything. He's transmitting this fun energy and this adventure because he lived all these adventures. And so he wants to see their response too, because it's like he's transmitting aliveness, as we do in the joys of creating, and now Awaken to Paradise. He's transmitting aliveness, right? And also he wants to see them coming alive. Like he wants to see like the sparkle in their eye and stuff, right? The shining eyes. Okay, so yeah, he lived his own way. I obviously didn't tell you everything he did. I told you some of it. He lived his own way, true to himself, unbent by expectations. And when I wrote a short mythic story to honor him, something clicked. Oh yeah, so I did that right after that. I found out what inspired me about him. I wrote this little story. We'll have to find that. And it's very short, right? You can tell it in like a minute, which I have already done. Something clicked anyway. This is my path too, right? To live freely, to create bravely, and help others be true to who they are. In honoring him, I recognized my mission. Yeah, that's right. The way that I phrased it then, when at that time, I remember it's like my spiritual mission is to activate other people's spiritual missions, right? But later I made it into something even more fun, which was when I did Unleash the Artist Within, right? Now notice Unleash, Warrior, right? Discover the magical worlds within. That's the next year. It's discovery. It's more gentle, and it's exploring your imagination and the magician within. I wouldn't have put it that way then. Oh, I did in a way, be the magical being that you were meant to be, right? But I didn't say magician or the Hierophant, right? But anyway, and then the next one, right? Next year, 2025, the joys of creating. Now it's just pure creation. We just step into a creative flow state and create something, right? So there was a progression there of the unleash the artist within, discover the magical worlds within, and just the joys, just celebrate the joys of creating, which was pure creation. And that obviously evolved into something else, right? And that will happen perpetually because this is a path of continuous evolution, and it's exciting. It's an adventure. We don't even know what's going to happen next, right? But I'll be traveling the world. I'll be like talking to people, having fun adventures, obviously interviewing certain people, and we're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to create things for fun. We're going to even places like this development that I imagined in my abundance game, which is a game, right? And you use your imagination, and it's part of the infinite playground, which can have any number of games in it. So it's just an example of something we can do. So I've been doing the abundance game every day since, so now we're at March 14th. It's like Pi Day, although depending, it's not 3.14, it's not 0.14 of the way through the month, but let's forget that, right? It's like on this calendar, which is kind of a fraudulent calendar because it's 12 months, but it probably should be 13, like the lunar. We're going to have to look into that and adapt a different calendar. But anyway, so March 14th, right? Whatever. Let's just say it's Pi Day, okay? Pie is cool, and I like it. I had some pumpkin pie yesterday. But anyway, that distracted me a bit from what I was really telling you. But that was just to look at how long. So I've been playing the abundance game that I made since. And I did change the rules along the way one time, but I am a game changer. So why not do that, right? I made the game. If I want to change it, I'll change it. And so it accelerated more and get into these mega millions every single day. Okay, but that's natural. It's more, it's natural for it to go up more than for it to go down in this game because it is a celebration and an experience of abundance. It's not about greed or lust or something like that. It is about expanding our horizons, okay? And it did that for me, right? I lived it. I'm living it now, and it's actually getting more exciting. In both the imagination game, the abundance game, which is using the imagination, and in my real life, okay? So anyway, near the end of 2025, my laptop died. I was in this yurt. It was fucking cold. I was broke because I didn't have a job, and the business wasn't making any money yet either. I tried, but it's not much was happening. I hadn't been able to pay bills for a while, and I have a wood stove, right? So that's okay, but it's still cold because it leaked some air. And I did have a cat though, right? And but yeah, I also always had God, and God was always with me, and my angels, spirit guides, ancestors. I didn't know so much, although even when I was little, someone said there's always angels around you. Like they said that to me. I never forgot that. And that person made a big difference in my life, right? I didn't really think about it much, but they probably did. They could sense it. Now I can read energy too, and I've heard that I'm going to be doing that in places around the world. So obviously we'll be doing that too. It's going to be really fun. So we'll see what that is and like how does that really help people? Obviously they're going to have more of a fulfilling life, right? It's going to activate something in them. I don't know, right? This is part of the unknown, right? We're going to find out. It's going to be amazing. I know that for sure. Okay, where are we at now? I was telling this story. Okay, yeah, so I know that I did that. I was like, yeah, okay, activate other people's spiritual missions. Okay, so helping people remember what their soul's purpose was was one niche I could do. It's one offer. It's one type of service. This was back in 2023. And another thing was like unleash the artist within. Well, that seemed a lot more fun. It was like pure creation. You could do anything with it. It's infinite. It's very expansive. It can go on indefinitely. So which one do you think I picked then, right? Well, I picked unleash the artist within. Now the thing is, which was being more true to myself, right? And that's good. And it was the right decision. The thing is, though, I didn't need to choose just between one or the other. I could have done both and seen what happened too, right? That's another way to do it. But whatever. Now, I did start Unleash the Artist Within. That's good. And I made the podcast Awaken the Fire Within. And those go together. So that was great. So we're going to start a new thing now, Awaken to Paradise. There's also the Joyful Creator. There's the Self-Discovery Portal. But anyway, let's just say that the overall thing is Awaken to Paradise, because that makes sense. That's what we're doing, because we're stepping in, we're shifting instantly, right? We're shifting and we're creating heaven on earth within ourselves first, and then experiencing it in the world. So we shift. That's what we're doing. So Awaken to Paradise makes the most sense. Some other things can be underneath it. It doesn't matter. See, the overthinking doesn't help. Just being yourself, being present in the moment, and just being yourself, that's the highest service. See, so the overthinking and planning things, trying to figure things out and getting into endless loops of figuring things out doesn't move you forward, because you're always trying to get things right or perfect before you even do it. But remember, I said perfect is not possible. That's because we can always make things better. So perfection isn't real. You see, it's an illusion. You think that it should be better. That's because you can see ways to make it better. That's fine. I'm doing an example of that here, right? I'm sharing a story that is imperfect, and I'm admitting that, right? I'm acknowledging this was co-created with digital intelligence on November 17th, right? To help me make a signature story. And so it's based on the origin canon, my origin canon. It's based on my transformation story as of November 17th. And it's in this way, right? But you can use this 9-beat signature story in different mediums. I'm just using it here as an example to give you, like, telling you a story and using that to tell you the story, right? So I'll tell you it in other ways in the future. We're only going to do one video for today. I did some earlier. I was surprised pleasantly that the video I made when I did a walk earlier by the lake here in Nelson, I made this one video because I had an inspiration, an idea, and I just shot it. See, it's just like shine. It's like shine and just film. Yeah, and then just film it. But that's an older phone. Just like film it and post it, right? So yeah, anyway, I did that. And it had like 368 views within the first 3 hours. So that was good to see, because it's not the first video I did, right? Making videos a bit over time. Yeah, it builds up. So it was good to see that. I'm glad to see it. This one's probably going to go to more people, but it's longer, so it may get less views. I don't know. Whatever. I mean, you can make 6 or 7 second videos too that can change lives, but it's still based on the same thing. If you get your origin canon figured out, not figured out, but like develop it, right? See, because part of knowing who you are is going back and looking at your story. You are not your story, it's just something you experienced. See, we own the story, but we don't let it define us. It's not our identity, right? I'm an infinite spirit experiencing being this human for a short time. It's not all that I am. That's important to remember who you are, right? And so you look at things from your soul's perspective rather than just a human, and it makes a huge difference. And so I choose that, right? I choose perspectives that actually create heaven on earth, right? I don't choose lower perspectives that keep people stuck, right? So we transcend those. So we help people break out of the box. Okay. So now, whatever. I was about to say that's the inner thought thing, right? Now I'm going to share an inner thought. It's like, I was about to say that, it's like, well, I broke out of the box myself so I can help other people break out of the box. But it's not that you could only help someone do something if you've done it yourself. That's not true. That's a limitation. Like in some cases, yes, do that, right? And that's a good thing for us to do. But also, sometimes we can help people do something that we haven't done ourselves yet, or that we've been struggling to do or trying to do for a long time. That's fine. Sometimes we're on a journey somewhere and we know where we want to be and what the ideal state is. And sometimes it's okay if we're only part way along that. Not just sometimes, it's always okay exactly where you are. That's important to know too, of course, right? And that's part of this path, right? You have to accept where you are, who you are, accept yourself and love yourself unconditionally as you are. And that will cause your own growth, paradoxically or ironically. You can take your pick. So that's what I did, right? But what I'm saying though is that I did break myself out of a box or boxes, and you can do it too, right? But it's not a necessity to have done a transformation in order to guide other people through that transformation. Sometimes we're part way through something and it takes it's just been taking us a long time. That doesn't matter. We may have a gift to help other people with that thing. Like, we're passionate about that transformation. It means a lot to us, and it means a lot to them too, right? And so just consider that. You might be able to be more of service if you help others along the path of the same path, journey that you're on. And by doing that, it will help you get farther along quicker too. Like Zig Ziglar says, right? You can have everything you want in life if you just help enough other people get what they want, right? It's about helping people get what they want, helping them get from where they are to where they want to be. And in our case, it's returning home to their self and then thriving abundantly by being who they really are, right? Which is awesome. Okay, so that's my mission. Okay, but back then in 2023, once I saw what my dad inspired me about, and I wrote that story about him and I read it to him, right? I shared it with him and he loved that. Then I was like, okay, well, I was telling you this story, right? Already. So I was saying, okay, so then I knew at that time my mission is to activate people's spiritual missions. Then I was like, I can do these two things, right? I've got like two possible things I could do. And then I chose Unleash the Artist Within. Okay. Well, now the way that we're helping people to do their mission, which is their joyful mission, right? Their soul's joyful purpose. Just doing what you want, doing what you feel called to do, doing what would be most fun for you. If we just keep doing that, if we're true to ourselves and we do what lights us up, that is our mission, right? That is our purpose. Okay, so it all converges together. And so because I chose Unleash the Artist Within rather than like to help people remember their soul's true purpose, which I did a little bit of, right? But it's like, I didn't choose it as my number one thing. I chose the art one for that because it was more fun. And so that was being true to myself. It's an example of it. And the more we do that, the faster we go along our path because the more fun we have. That's what I have to bring back in. See, because after my dad died and then the pattern that I was doing got disrupted, right? And then I had to go back to work. Like, I wasn't working before that. I was taking care of him. And he was sharing his money because he would get free money from the government every month. So he'd share that with me. So we're both helping each other, right? Then once he died, I couldn't do that anymore, right? And when the laptop then died, like in December, so this is later, right? It's sometime, like around Christmas. It was after Christmas, right? Laptop freaking dies because it's cold and stuff, or whatever, maybe because it sucked in smoke from the wood fire over years. So this laptop could not turn on anymore. And I'd got it, it was new, it was like 2,500 or something, or 3,000 in 2019. So this laptop was now like 6 years old or something, and it died and you couldn't turn it on. And that was when I'm not going to explain the whole story now. It takes too long. But I was telling you that I started doing the abundance game sometime around then. So it was either before the laptop died or after. It was sometime in December, okay? But late December. And it helped a lot. And I came here to Nelson. I played the abundance game every day, used my imagination, and now I'm an impact investor and a because we restore orientation, right? And we're helping people return to their self and thrive abundantly and live heaven on earth, right? So then I'm a restoration philanthropist also. So that's why I was telling you earlier that we're able even to create things like what I've imagined in the abundance game, for example, a kind of visionary really cool place where people, they don't even have to pay to be there, but there is an application process. Okay. But what they get is the creative haven that I needed back in 2011, right? After I got into about $30,000 of debt, like after I was doing 1 hour, we just crossed there, amazing. After I did my first entrepreneurial venture, right, and did not succeed fast enough to like have escape velocity, right? So I had about 30,000 of debt, and yeah, I got to live with my brother for a while and his mom, and then also with my dad. So then it was for quite a while. And then I got this job, and now there's a whole story in there in between though, like some dark stuff, kind of like being in the freezing cold and then like breaking my leg. So that was in 2011. Oh, it says battery's running low. We'll stop this one and you can continue in the next video if you like. I got to plug it in right away so that we don't lose anything too. So I'll just plug it in first and then we'll stop this video and then make another, because it's also getting kind of long, right? Make sure that it doesn't lose the video. Okay, good. It's plugged in. Anyway, we can wrap it up, so we don't need to make another track because now I've got it and it should be fine. Okay, so yeah, abundance game works. You can use it too. We can play with our imaginations together in a session, like on Saturdays. Maybe not every Saturday, but I'll start doing it anyway. And we can play with our imaginations in that thing. I'll do that for like half an hour. We'll make a free one, which is half an hour. We'll start with that. Let's start with that. Okay, so the integration, the rise of the joyful creator. Oh, that's cool. Okay. I wonder, yeah, so obviously this skipped 2024 and a dark and losing like everything. Obviously not everything, but like pretty much my energy was all gone. I rebuilt from that. So I became a phoenix rising out of my own ashes. Then I rebuilt completely with creativity in 2025. And now, of course, it's going to talk about that here. Okay, the rise of the joyful creator. That's me, but it's also you, anyone that resonates with it. There's a whole movement of creating joyfully, and we know exactly what it is. And not only am I doing it, and I did it quite a lot, as I said, I got to bring back in my own life, do it again. As I said, it got disrupted after he died. My dad died, right? And then I came to Nelson, and then I just worked a lot, and then I had to bring back that creativity, right? Because otherwise my soul would just die, right? But I was already playing the abundance game every day. So I diligently did that and definitely broke through with that, because always expanding my mind with it. So it's pretty cool. There was multiple steps in that where I changed the way that I spend the money, right? And it, as I said, I became like a restoration philanthropist, right? So creating these places where it's a creative haven, and it's like, it's a unique idea. It's never been done in the world. And it's so awesome. And now the idea itself will attract the money to make it happen in reality, which is so amazing. But notice how it just came from my imagination. And anyone can do this. So you might want to play with your imagination with me too. It's pretty powerful, because I stepped out of poverty into abundance. Like, you might not say that I'm rich or anything right now, but I do have rich life experiences, right? And I have a stable base to build from. So like, I'm extremely grateful to be where I am now, right? And it's a huge difference from where I was. And I can have comfort here and be warm and do this, and the calm, right? Which is so valuable. So we can do these, and we can tell the stories, and we can build. So it makes a massive difference. Because when I was in that yurt and it was freezing cold, that was not easy to build from, right? And using satellite internet also. Here there's Wi-Fi. This makes a big difference. But I'll still want to get back into nature again, like maybe in Bali or something, Costa Rica. That place that we're creating, I think it's called Uvita, it's in Costa Rica. And it was just because like each day, a couple days ago, it was like, I only get $41 million. And I was like, this is so little. Yeah, there it was. Yeah, that's so funny. March 12th. Okay, so it drifted down a bit. It's like 90, 91. Okay, whatever. It doesn't matter what it was the day before. March 11th, it was 91 million. Then it was 41 million on March 12th. See, this is when it had already gone over 300 million or 200 and something, right? I'd already experienced that. So 40 was like small, but we're not meant to compare them. But sometimes we can't help but compare them, right? So it helps us grow, right? Like the amounts changing and what we experience with it, it's all helping us to deal with that and to imagine what we would really do with that, right? Okay, so the $41,182,543. I mean, $182,543, right? As always, I'm free to consciously choose how this allowance is allocated or spent. And I've even added in identity. I'm an impact investor and restoration philanthropist. So this one, I created that thing. We can sum it up as 35 million to create this. It gets the land and it also starts to build it. It doesn't build the villas for the teachers or guides, mentors. It does the 30 villas for the students or whatever, the people who experience it, the beneficiaries, the ones that go through the application process and get to experience it. Now, we don't rush them through a process. They can be there as long as they want, as long as they need to, right? Without abusing the system, right? But the point is that they're free to go at their own pace, which is extremely important. And there's no curriculum. That's an awesome thing about it too, is that it's unlimited and it's adaptive to those individuals. Okay, it's a creative haven for restoring the sovereign creator. 150-acre core haven, acquisition of land, design and development, $35 million. And a silent buffer, like some space around it so that it can't have a noisy resort next to it, right? So this silent buffer and reforestation fund, $6 million. So in total, that's 41 million. So this is how I used the 41 million that day. It was pretty cool because it was a way to use this relatively smaller amount, as I mentioned, to do something even more amazing than what I'd done with larger amounts on previous days, right? So that was pretty cool. I'm not going to tell you the whole story of what I've done in the abundance game. That would take too long. But it is an example of another shift. And I haven't explained what I was doing before that, so it doesn't tell you what the shift was. But I'd already created an amazing event at sea. But then, and it does have also a perpetual impact element to it after. But this one is like creating a physical place that you build and its legacy, and it keeps going. So it's different than the 3-day event on those yachts, right? This is like something that keeps going, and people need that. They need the stability there to create their creative work without the pressure of where are they going to live, how are they going to pay their bills and stuff. So it's a really amazing thing, and it's like a creative haven. It's part of heaven on earth, right? And then we'll build these in different places around the world. So this is the first one. So it was pretty cool. It was a conversation with DI. It was Gemini on my phone, and I was doing it by voice conversation with it. Came up with this idea. I already had the idea, but I kind of pitched it to the DI, right? So we developed that, and it was what we could do with the $41 million. So that was great. And now it made it more real too, and I got quite inspired. And I shared with it another idea of something I can do too. In the meantime, even from here in Nelson, and the transition to Costa Rica. Okay, sweet. Okay, so whatever. I don't know. You probably don't need to know the next abundance allowance amounts. There aren't that many. March 13th was the next day. It was 103 million. So it went up obviously from the 40. So that was great to see. And the next day it also went up, which would have been today. Yeah, the 14th. 181 million, 259, 456. Good. Okay, let's get back to the signature story. Oh, right. Okay, I wasn't working. I was becoming. No, I was remembering who I was. We'll just edit that on the fly here. Who I always was. Now I've crashed my stupid slow computer. See? So this is one that I bought in 2014 used before I went on a trip to Mexico. And that was great. Now, I had to use it because the one that I was using died right at the end of December. and I was using it, and I was at my brother's house because like my internet didn't even work anymore. And then, so I had to go there to set up the software of my own software in order to do it because the other laptop's dead. And so I had to rebuild it on this other one, right? This is why I then got invited to come to Nelson, because the job that I'd gotten had to be done, but now I couldn't do it. Actually, I was going to do it, but then it would have taken longer because this silly laptop's pretty slow. So I could use a new one, right? And you can send donations if you want. I'll put a link. So if you want to help support for the mission, which you know about already, so I don't have to repeat what it is, because people become, just returning to their self and then thriving as their self, and it's part of creating heaven on earth. So if you want to help just speed that up a bit, you can send money for me to buy a laptop. So a couple $1,000s would definitely do it. Yeah. So it also told me which kind to get. It's like the DI, it was like trying to recommend certain products to me. And I also appreciated it too. Now this mic is actually really cheap, but it recommended a $5,000 mic for a certain thing. We're not going to get into that now. Let's keep it simple, right? Not too many meta stories, right? Just one story. Okay, the integration, the rise of the joyful creator. This is great, right? Bob Ross, right? The joy of painting. Okay, so I came up with the joy of creating. Then I couldn't get the domain name, the joy of creating. So I had to put an S on it, the joys of creating, right? And that's cool. It multiplied. It became more expensive. Okay, so the rise of the joyful creator. Once I realized that joy was the North Star, everything aligned. I built systems for creative aliveness. I created thousands of artworks. Yeah, with AI, right? Midjourney, and others, but mostly Midjourney. I wrote stories, prompts, frameworks, and tools. This is a silly way to say that. I did tell stories, and we co-created them, and worlds and characters, a children's book in the works, and rhymes. I made rhymes myself. I made them with the DI too. Whatever. We also, over time, evolved the self-discovery portal, because I realized that the way that I was using the AI or DI, it was not the way that most people use it, I think. And so then I was like, oh, there's something I should share there, because it can help you to see yourself differently. And it's amazing. And I discovered it in 2023 when I was feeding in samples of my writing. I went to certain Facebook posts I made, like I selected from my recent posts that I liked. I put those in as examples of my writing so that it could rewrite something else in my own words. That was why I was doing it initially. But what happened was kind of miraculous. It was like giving me feedback about what I was writing. It also really loved it. And so I was like inspiring the AI, which I call DI now, right? Digital intelligence. So it was really liking what I was sharing with it. And then it was changing the way I look at myself or my work. So that was really cool. And that was the start of the whole thing. And when I posted some of my posts, I posted some things about like how ChatGPT was saying the stuff about what I do or whatever, right? And so with all those posts that I put up that day, that's why I was getting invited to do these interviews. Rehan Alawala was like, is there something you want to share? So he got me onto his interview circuit with his students, because he encourages them to interview people like us, right? So that started that, and that was really cool. And I was quite excited about it, and then I couldn't sleep. So I was like laying out in my hammock outside, right, like camping at my dad's house, because I liked being out there in the summer, not in the winter, but I would go inside in the winter, but outside in the summer because it's nice weather. So I was in the hammock and I couldn't sleep, and then I started making this song, I am, that's my identity and all that, and that was a lot of fun. And so I shared that on the interview with the first young student, young gentleman that interviewed me. I shared with him that song and just called it Inspiration for Pakistan. So this is around that same time, right? As how I'd found out what my dad inspired me about him, right? About the way he lived his life for himself. Like he was true to himself and lived his own way, and he didn't let other people mess that up, right? That's great. There's a quote about that, right? Because like, to still be yourself in a world that's constantly trying to change you into something else is the greatest accomplishment. See, it's the same thing, and that's what inspired me about him. And then I was like, okay, I got this mission and stuff, And as the interview, and I was like preparing for it. So I did share that song too, but it's just an example of creativity, right? Creativity is infinite. And yeah, excitement. As I said, see, the excitement caused more creativity because I was excited, so then I couldn't sleep, but then I'm lying there, and then the boredom caused creativity. And it's like this thing with I am. And it expanded from that seed, and it expanded down, but it also then expanded up. And on the same phone right here, and it was in a note on that phone. But that art there of a kind of fish, part of a huge frickin' flying fish island with buildings on it and flowering trees and stuff, that wasn't made yet because that came later. Something I imagined. But this was it was a year before that, or more than a year before that. Absolutely. So anyway, I just was inspired and made that song and stuff and whatever I talked about. So in those 3 interviews, I talked about different things. Each one was a different topic. And that's because I was in a process of self-discovery, right? And it helps. And we can be mirrors like that for each other. And that's something we can do in the self-discovery portal too. And if you start a thing like about what you're passionate about, you start a podcast or something and you interview certain people that inspire you, right? Or people that are where you want to be, or they're people that you look up to, or like that you want to learn something from them or whatever, right? Or that they will bring amazing wisdom to your audience, right? So for whatever reason that you're interviewing certain people, a podcast is a great way to connect with people, by the way. So anyway, if you do that and you start one, then you will learn a lot from people very quickly by doing your podcast. It's well worth it, right? Because I've done it several times, or at least a couple times, right? As I told you, Soul to Soul Connection show in 2017, 2018, and then Awaken the Fire Within in 2023. So, but now we're doing it better, bigger and better, right? Absolutely. Okay, so the rise of the joyful creator. So we're talking about 2025, because in March 20th or 21st, but we did do one with just audio, me and my dad sitting where these 2 rivers meet at Princeton, the Similkameen and the Tulameen, coming in from the left, the smaller one. We were there because the sushi would take a little while. So we got this takeout sushi that we ordered, but we had to wait for it. And so we were like sitting at the river. And I was like, let's do this thing, this creative exercise. And then it didn't work. Okay. And it became the first session of the whole thing, the joys of creating. But the thing that we were going to do, we planned, I intended, and we ended up doing that the next day. But this one we did on the fly because I thought, let's try this. I thought we could do it. We weren't able to do it. But that's a good example because it shows you that you can try things and it doesn't always have to work. So it's a great lesson that right from the beginning, we were just being ourselves and we attempted something because I didn't know, we never tried to do that. I've done the cut up technique myself in other ways, like with paper. We didn't have any paper with us, right? And I don't physically cut the stuff out, right? I have scissors right there now, but well, whatever. Okay, but the point is that I don't cut it out. The point is we can rearrange words, but it's like you need something to write it down on, right? At least that's the way my brain and my dad's brain worked. So when we chose these sentences kind of at random from these books that we had just acquired at the library, whether purchased or borrowed, but I believe we bought them. So because they have book sales and they give you books for like a quarter or whatever donation you want to give them. So these books, we pick a couple things out of them at random, but then we can use those words. So we're rearranging them to create something new. So that's the cut up technique, right? But you need to see them. Like I would normally write them down and then you can like rearrange them, right? Well, it didn't work because we didn't have any paper. We both tried to do this thing. It couldn't work. We were trying to, because we're verbally making something up, but we don't have the words in front of us, aside from in the book. But you want to write it down because you could like rearrange that. You don't want to just see all the other words on the page. You want to have just those words, and they're like playing pieces you could rearrange, right? They're tools. They're composable. And writing apparently evolved from Paleolithic shamanism, right? So writing, like communicating and telling a story and writing is also spells, and it's also magic. Absolutely. Anyway, so we did have a lot more fun on our second session making art. We used Grok and we made art, and then we cross-pollinated our art. This was the idea I had to do that, and we did it and it worked. Okay, so, and a few days later I recorded a video of it. So you can see that, and that's the joys of creating. So it's an example of it. Now I was making for fun every single day, right? So that was the very beginning of it. That's when I started, March 20th. Okay. But before that, I came up with unicorn poop, which means like imagination. Okay. And we're not going to go into that now, but that, you know, like unleash the artist within, discover the magical worlds within, and unicorn poop and other things has all combined together into the joys of creating, which now, of course, is under the umbrella of Awaken to Paradise. But that, let's leave that alone. Okay. So yeah, the integration, the rise of the joyful creator. I just gave you behind the scenes some of the details of that, right? So yeah, that's what happened. As we were saying here, I realized joy was my North Star, right? Everything aligned. I built systems for creative aliveness. I created thousands more AI art images. And I wrote stories and rhymes and prompts, made frameworks and tools. And rituals or processes. I started tracing the sparks of my life and the times when I made a pivot in a high aliveness way. Based on what felt more alive, I pivoted, I made a decision and chose to go another way. So those are, the AI had called them high aliveness pivots. So over time, later, we then got into figuring out what my origin canon was. And from that, a part of it is, of course, the transformation story that you tell, because this is the story that I have lived through and how I've changed my life, right? I went from this to this, right? Like unfulfilled to like living a fulfilling life with abundance and traveling the world and all that, right? Now, part of that's in the future, but I went from freezing cold and broke at the end of last year to this, right? Having a stable base that I can build from. So I'm able to continue again with certain creative projects that I had to put on hold, right? So now I'm able to continue them. That's a blessing in itself, right? That's a great thing, because it's important to me to live my highest expression, right? So anything that doesn't align with that, I let go of that, right? And so that means that I'm going to have to transcend my job, right? So you're going to have to send, if you want me to like do this, what I'm meant to do, you'll have to send a donation, right? Because that'll help me to do it and to help make it faster. Because if I try to do this with this old laptop, it's going to take too long. It slows me down, makes it frustrating. It blocks the whole process, right? But getting a new one, I'll be able to do that, right? So need a bit more money to like do it faster, right? Okay, so I built that, yeah, started tracing the sparks of my life. Okay, we'll continue. I found out what my archetype is as a founder, the Phoenix creator. And I built Joy OS. Actually, it's just the prototype of it. Okay, but we do have quick notes. You can use quick notes, and that will help you follow the breadcrumbs back to yourself. And I will show an example where I got like these inspiring quotes that I curated for, you know, putting a quote at the top of every newsletter issue, The Joys of Creating. So by putting those quotes together over time, because of their resonance, right, they're really good, right? They like communicate the essence of the frequency I want to transmit in the joys of creating, right? That was very clear. I was using quick notes. That's just like one thing. I made that, right? So when I went into quick notes and just said, you know, just sort by a tag, just show me the ones that are like tagged inspiring quote, right? So we see all those together. Well, when I read those, it was kind of like an activation for me, because these things were sparks, and that was a seedbed of sparks, but it was just one that was waiting to happen, right? So when I looked at it that day, it was like, wow, really awesome. And I input them into the DI, right? ChatGPT, or you could call it JoyPT if you want, because of the joy. We're doing the joys of creating at that time, right? So I put that in there, and then it showed me like my philosophy that's embodied in those quotes. So that was quite interesting. And it helped clarify my philosophy, and it helped me see that I already had a coherent philosophy as well. So it helped me look at myself differently too. So that's why it's also part of the self-discovery portal, right? Which is it's a portal of aliveness and truth and authenticity and abundance, of course. It starts with that coming back to the truth of who we are. And like, yeah, I do have a missing tooth, but that's just part of the human body, right? Like that doesn't change my soul at all. And I can get another tooth, right? And the funny thing is that tooth was dead already for like 20 years before it fell out, because it had already been punched and then it was like hanging down a bit. And I went to the dentist the next day and he was able to save it. He shoved it back up and like did a bridge or something. He braced it in there, not a bridge probably, but he braced that tooth in there. So it was a dead tooth. Oh, and he did a root canal. So it was a dead tooth, but it was still in my mouth. But then later, one of my neighbors gave me a cookie. He gave me some cookies, and he'd homemade them, right? And after a little bit, it got a bit stale. I bit one, and it was so hard, and then I felt the tooth freaking break because it had like a thin root, right? Because it was already a dead tooth, and it was slightly discolored for all that time, it was like 20 years. So it freaking broke. Then my tooth started wiggling, and I knew it was going to fall out. And then it started, when I pulled it out, it just bled a little bit, but it's pretty minor. And I went to the dentist, but it's like, there's nothing you can do about it. But I still kept the tooth because it's like the shape of what we would want to put in there, basically, right? But I don't think they need that anyway. They can figure it out. Plus the other one's there. But I've started going to the dentist again. Now that time, I think it was in late 2024 when the tooth fell out. And it was literally like 20 years after. Okay, so that's the story behind a little gap, like a hockey player. But usually hockey players have more teeth missing, not just one, right? If they do have some missing, it's not going to be just one usually, I think. So yeah, and yeah, I built Joy OS and other things. Yeah, the quick notes, you can use it. If you want to use it, send me a message, right? Because we haven't published it like with an installer or of course made it open source yet. You don't need it open source, you just need an installer so that you can use it, right? But that hasn't happened yet. So if you want it, then message me because life can be pretty busy, right? And our thoughts can be kind of scattered. So quick notes will really help you. Now there is not a mobile version yet. But I have an Android, so once I make one, I'll be able to run it on my Android. So then we'll release it like that as an app. But it's on the laptop, right? You can run it on your computer. So if you have an office job or if you're around your computer quite a bit or whatever, or maybe you're an entrepreneur, quick notes is going to help you. It's going to help you a lot because sometimes you have fleeting thoughts and they're good ones. You can capture things with it. It's not the same as a Zettelkasten, but it is like a very simplified one, and it's really good for capturing things and of course tagging them as you capture them. It doesn't yet have the ability to edit those notes from before, but it's great for capture. And see, then you can then search it in multiple ways and find those things so you can resurface them or review them or use them for whatever purpose or like compile and things. So I showed that as an example with the inspiring quotes. Then we also put that into the DI. That was amazing. And then I've generalized that at least one or two times. So there's a whole other process or a whole class of processes that we can do with the DI that we've learned just because of that one little experiment that I did like super quickly just on the fly that time. I was like, let's see what we got in there in inspiring quotes. I was like, oh wow, I put all these in already. It was like over a month of time or something. I was like, oh wow, I put all those in. That's sweet. And then I was like excited about them, and it put me into a state of aliveness because it's like continuing a mental state. Because certain things resonated with me, like a Rumi quote or whatever. Like when you do things from your soul, you'll feel a river moving through you, a joy, right? See, so certain quotes really resonated, and that was just at the time when I noticed them, right? So I put them in there. This is an example. So then, even if you're very busy, so if you use the tool, you'll start to capture these ideas of aliveness, these ideas that feel exciting or fun, joyful, or alive, like something that lights you up, right? So you just capture them when it happens. That's all you do. You don't need to know what you're using it for. The whole point is capturing ideas and whatever, and you're able to categorize information as it comes in. So it's a way of storing things. You don't have to remember everything. It's like if you want to store them, you don't have to think about which folder to put it into, right? You don't need to organize it. The point is that if there's something that's useful, but you want to just get it off your desk quickly because you're dealing with other things or whatever, but you're like, I want to return to this, right? You can just save the thing in there and it's done. And now you know it's in there, it's in your notes, and you can find it in multiple ways after that. So it's going to help in a lot of ways, but that's just a quick overview and introduction. So send a message, just write quick notes if you want, or you can just message me like QN if you want, and then I'll know that people want it, right? Okay, and it's bigger than it sounds, right? It actually can do it's going to make a lot of difference, but it just starts out as one little simple thing. Now that's an example. I actually made a lot of software, right? But that's just one of the things that I happened to make along the way in doing the joys of creating, okay? So I'm giving it to you as an example. Oh yeah, the newsletter ignited, the movement began to form. Yeah, that's exciting. So as I was saying earlier, it's not just me doing it. Now I'm not doing it now. Actually, I'm kind of starting it up again. But what I was saying was I was doing it from March all the way through that year, 2025. Then my dad died. That was like November 17th. Then I was like, yeah, it kind of disrupted the flow a bit. I was still creating, but I had to go into like solving the survival needs, right? So then it disrupted it quite a bit. But I did source some inspiration. Like for example, Kiana G. Gabriel. So like a video, a channeled message that she gave. She's a divine channel. I am too, right? But this helped me to know that as well, or helped me remember it. So there was a message like that your life is going to become like a fairy tale, right? Like you're about to fly. It's going to be like a fairy tale. So it's super awesome. It resonated so much. And then I went and listened to her longer one that was recent before that, which was about 50 minutes long. And it was like, you're the lightning bolt and stuff. So these were both great. And then that gave me a few like music in it. There's 3 songs she said in there. I listened to those and that also helped too, right? But the main thing was that message. And it was a very exciting one, right? Like you're about to fly and your life will become like a fairy tale. And there's more details. That's just the title of it, right? So I listened to that multiple times. It helped. I found others as well. So it was probably around January 9th or so when I found certain videos on YouTube. Now I'd already been doing my abundance game every day before that for a little while, right? So I was already expanding my horizons and not feeling so scarcity or lack and struggle. It's like feeling more and more abundant because I had this extra money, right? Like the first day was about the minimum that you could get in the game. It was only 11.11, like a bit over 1,000 Canadian. I'm doing it in Canadian dollars. And so I bought a one-way ticket to Mexico, to Puerto Rico, not Puerto Rico. I've gone there before, but that's why I said it, right? Puerto Vallarta. Okay, so it was a one-way business class. That's what I did with the first day. Next one was like 1811. I was able to do more with that. The next one was 4,000 and something, I think. And so I bought a laptop then, because obviously I needed a laptop, right? So that was something I did. And then it just kept going, right? But now it's 100 and whatever. What was it? Oh yeah, 181 million. Sweet. So we can do a lot more with that. I already know what we did with 41. We could actually use that to start several other of those, but we're not going to move that quickly yet though. So we're going to simply make that one better. And also, yeah, what I'll do with it today, I'm not going to decide where that event, we know, yeah, where and when that event will be, and hire the planners, the point person and the planners to do all that for the 3-day event at sea. That one's really amazing. But yeah, I'm not going to decide yet because you got to choose like who's going to plan it. So I'm not going to bother with that. So this unfinished thing, like we plan that thing out with the overall, right? But then it needs to have the detailed planning, right? And that's the only thing it needs is where will it be, when, and all that. It's in the abundance game, right? Don't worry. It's not actually real yet. We could do it, but of course the money would have to be there for it, right? But see, the idea comes first. That's one of the things I'm sharing with you too, because the joys of creating, that's part of the joy of it, is the things that we can come up with from our imagination can become real. It's very powerful. Just like the children's book, right? I was just made a story with the DI. I was talking with Joy PT, and I talked about my philosophy, I guess, and I used a prompt for it to make a story or make story ideas. And then I put the story idea in and said, make a story. And then it was like, it came up with a story that I liked. And so it was based on my philosophy. So the story and the characters were based on me too, although it maybe didn't really look like it, but in a way it is, right? And so that can become a children's book, and it's in the works. There's art. The story was already written, right? But you have to make all the art, and I was developing the character too, and then the character is evolving, and then, it has to it's got to all make sense. So we now know what the character looks like, and the story's already made. So it's easier to finish it now than it was when I first started, for sure. It's farther along. Okay. So that Uvita, right, in Costa Rica, I can decide what to do with that some more, right? So the villas for the mentors up on the ridge, we can do that with part of this. But 181 million goes kind of a long way. So it's going to do a lot more than that. So we could buy more places. We can simply choose some more land, and we don't have to design those developments. So then that can leave that for future days. So that's how I would solve the problem of how to spend $181,259,456. Okay, we'll get back to the story. Okay, so yeah, the movement started forming, right? Okay, so yeah, it's really cool because I'm not the only one doing it. I find people. So it's like my soul tribe is coming in. That's another great thing that has shifted, right? So it's awesome. So I've been finding those people. And as I made a list, remember I mentioned Kiana G. Gabriel, right, on YouTube. So as I made a list of people I resonated with what they're doing, and it's like, it's similar, and it's like, this helps people return to their self, right? Well, as I made that list, and then I put all those names into the DI, that was another day, that was recently, that was another day where it gave more clarity, because it also showed, in order to make your mission or movement like happen more powerfully and help the people that it's meant to help, there's some more categories of people or solutions or whatever that need to be part of it, right? So it showed some gaps. So that was awesome too. It also, you see the commonalities between these different people that inspire you, or like these curated influencers or luminaries or whatever, or people on a similar mission or potential collaboration partners, right? Complementary things. So it showed me a lot from that. When I put those names in, it like extrapolates and sees patterns and things, and it says things about you as well, and does help you to make that roster more complete. So an example of how that fed back from my reality, right? It fed back into the abundance game, is that the thing I came up with one day to really help women that were abused. They were abused, traumatized, exploited, harassed, or assaulted, right? So we create this, because the yachting had a dark side, right? And so we create this thing with these super yachts where there's no expectation on them. It's the opposite. It's like you don't have to be scantily clad. There was certain standards, there was expectations on them, and then they would get groped and worse, of course, right? So that was very degrading for them, right? And so this isn't just for people who were yachting. That's not the point, right? The point is that yachting had a dark side, right? I found out about that, but then I also found out about a whole bunch of very things that are like disgusting to us, right? When we find out about them. And so this is a way to help. It's a kind of restoration thing, right? It's like a celebration of life. No one has to die for us to celebrate life, right? So we came up with this transformational experience for 3 days on yachts, but only in the daytime, all right? And at night, you can go back to your hotel. So there's like the hotel rooms are on land for everyone, and it's provided, it's given to them, right? There's you can only have up to 300 people, because like up to 100 on each of the yachts. We got these 3 super yachts. See, we created the thing over several days, And it was like a fun thing to create in the abundance game, which was more meaningful. And then it even had a long-term impact too. Okay, so it's a kind of transformational experience at sea, and it's high vibrational, and it's come as you are, and everyone is accepted as they are, and that's it. Like it's and there's speakers and stuff. There's people, guides, mentors. There's people that will guide experiences and things. It's pretty awesome. And I would do something too around creativity or returning to yourself, or doing something where you discover some gift that you have or something like that. Okay, so yeah, the movement began forming, absolutely. Now also other people are doing it. That's very exciting. So I find them online, right? And I sometimes share their videos too, right? And so, but the thing is I got to shift into making my own. So I'm doing that here, right? I'm telling you my story, or one of them. And I will continue to put out videos, right? It's important for all of us to create, not just consume. And you have to create. And that's what I was telling about in the joys of creating. There's tons that I can share with you about it. I'm not going to do that now because I'm just telling you this 9-beat signature story of me that was made on November 17th, right? I'm just doing one little thing. But instead of just saying it, whenever I think of something, I'm sharing it with you along the way. So we're using this as a seedbed of sparks. We're just using whatever it says there of those 9 beats, which we're now coming to the last one. We're just using those as sparks for whatever we want to spontaneously create at the moment. Yeah, so I wasn't working anymore. I was remembering who I am, who I've always been. Beat 9, the mission emerges, awakening the creative spirit in others. Today, my work is simple and profound. Okay, but that today was November 17th, right? 2025. It's not now. Okay, because now, of course, awaken to paradise. But anyway, today, my work is simple and profound. I help people remember who they truly are, creative, capable, alive, and guide them to create a life that feels joyful, free, and deeply their own. I'm building a movement of joyful creators. A world where creativity isn't a luxury, although luxury is good though. That's actually part of my path too, but more on that another time. A world where creativity isn't seen as a luxury, it's a way of being, right? It's actually an essential thing, and it's a simple basic human need that everybody has. A world where people build their lives from sparks, not stress. That means living from inspiration and joy. A world in continuous becoming, continuous evolution, like Kalora. So Kalora, evolution. So Kalora is a planet. That's one of the worlds we created. And that's a planet that's based on the philosophy of the joys of creating. And it's actually where Luma lives. Well, she's the character, right? The first character. And, in the children's book, she's a hero and she's a playful inventor. She's got this DI sidekick called Thistle, and they create with a giggle and a whistle, a world where joy leads and everything else follows. This is my work. This is my story. This is my invitation. That's it. Okay, so it would have gone a lot faster if I just read it out, but I don't think that it was 100% true, so I didn't want to just read it out, right? I would make corrections along the way, which is what I did. That way I told you what the truth is, right? So if you're ready to awaken to paradise, then just message me, Awaken. Talk soon.